Interesting presentations now. I suppose my role as chairman is just to be the time bully, because we've got quite a few people to speak. We'll have short 5-minute presentations from each of those. I'll call you out when your time's up, and then at the end Kishore will wrap up, and we'll have an opportunity, hopefully any time remaining, for a few questions. So first of all, could I ask Joe to come up? Where does it come from? Thank you.
Tripped Lawrence up on the way past. Hello again, everybody, and hello for the first time to people that weren't here earlier on. My name is Jo Salter, and I run Where Does It Come From, which is an ethical clothing brand where all the clothes come with their story. I'm just briefly going to talk to you for a couple of minutes about a project that we're running, starting to work in Africa. Now, we've been working in India with Shailini from Moral Fibres since 2013, and so it's a new sort of voyage for us, starting to work with African suppliers as well. It's really exciting, and we're launching a crowdfund to raise the funds to basically produce a range of tunics, such as the one I'm wearing now. This is the sample for our range. And these tunics are going to be created using organic rain-fed cotton, and they're being produced in a fair trade workshop in Malawi, and every tunic's going to come with its story. Anyway, I've got a presentation slot to talk a lot more about the tunics and the crowdfund later on. The crowdfund was due to launch on Tuesday, but because of today being such a special event here at the festival, we've basically opened it a bit early. So the crowdfund is actually open now at crowdfunder.co.uk, African tunics. So it's quite easy to remember. So if you want to go across, there's a fantastic video to look at. Shailini's in it as well as me, and it's well worth a look. Our partners for the production are, we're partnered with the NGO Proudly Made in Africa, and Proudly Made in Africa are all about mainstreaming African products, because in the past a lot of African-based products are sent abroad and then put labels on, and all the profits go to the brands that are labelling them as opposed to the producers who are making them. And so they've been our partners throughout the whole project, helping us find our suppliers. And then we're sourcing our cotton from a German social enterprise called Cotoneer, and they work with Ugandan farming cooperatives. And then the tunics are going to be tailored in Mayamiko, which is based in Malawi, and it's a social enterprise empowering women and other community members with skills for tailoring and business, and also things like beekeeping as well. So there's lots of exciting things, lots of work going on, and I will expand about this more later in my presentation slot. So that's probably enough for me now.
Thank you very much, Jo. Thank you. Could I call on you, Krista, please, to talk about bioRe and your various work. Thank you.
Thank you. I will not speak too long. I presented bioRe Foundation also in the previous session. We are doing the organic cotton in India and Tanzania. Because this is an action meeting, one wish, what I would like to see, like it's such a great festival here. People come together with this mindset to really change something in the fashion industry and really go down to the farm level and find out on the whole conditions of what is happening in the supply chains. And if there's networks now here in London or in the UK which are engaged also to sensitize, to raise awareness about organic cotton, about GM cotton, I would be really interested if you can give me some connections here, and that we can really raise the awareness about these issues. Because, if I just briefly say, if we had 95% of GM tomatoes, I think people would be much more, shaken. But actually, what we wear is 95% GM cotton, and you don't realize it. So if there's some people interested, and we can create a larger network to really fight against GM, and at the same time save the organic, because okay, in India it's an issue that there is such a huge spread of GM cotton, but it will be in African countries as well. It's only a question of time that GM seeds are available everywhere. So if we can just bundle the forces, I would be very happy if you approach me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Krista. And I think that's one of the key challenges is looking at innovation that we want to see as against perhaps innovation that big business is looking to. Sah, could you talk about the ethical hour? Thank you.
Thank you. Hi everybody, I'm Sah from Ethical Hour. I recognise a few faces, some of our members in the audience, but a few new people as well. So I'd like to invite you all to join Ethical Hour. We are a free network online, and our aim is to make ethical business the norm. So we're all about empowering people to live and work more ethically in line with their values. And we have various ways that we can help you do that, help you connect to like-minded people, and help you raise awareness of your causes, your organisations, your brands, and the things that you care about and the change that you want to see. So every Monday night we have a Twitter chat using the hashtag Ethical Hour from 8 o'clock till 9 o'clock on Twitter, and we have a different topic every week where we talk about all different things to do with ethical and sustainable business and living. And there are a lot of sponsorship opportunities if anybody would like to host a Twitter chat as well. We also have a podcast, a blog, and a Facebook group with over 2,000 people in there, which is called the Ethical Hour Growth Network. So if you would like to join us, that's the easiest way to get involved to begin with. And then I am also a marketing consultant who works with ethical brands. So I have an ethical marketing club, which is a subscription group that you can join. It's just launched, and you can learn all about how to market yourself in that group. And then I work with brands in various different ways to help them with their marketing, because I basically just want to champion what you guys do, help get the word out there, help you compete against the unethical companies, and let's all work together to make ethical business the norm, and every hour, Ethical Hour. Thank you.
Oh, great, right there to the point, clearly challenging us to network more together, and that building up that advocacy, knowledge, and the opportunity to share information together. Great, thank you very much. Shailini, please, talk about Moral Fibre and all your new opportunities.
Hello everyone, I'm Shailini, and my organization is Moral Fibre. We are based mainly in India, and we work with hand-spun, hand-woven fabrics. We work with various cooperatives who work in remote villages where the fabrics are produced, and we promote and market and do the placement. Over the years, it's mainly a web-based business, and over the years we've been happy to supply to about 18 different countries, so that is a little success story there. But after working with sustainability and the issues about the textiles, I think when we are presenting it to people, there has been various, we talked about it this morning, about the barriers of people accepting it, the price barriers, the understanding barriers, the barriers of marketing. So with our charity arm, that is Sah Unati Foundation, we are starting a new initiative, and I'm going to talk about it more in detail on the top of it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Shailini.
You have a bigger presentation later, right?
You I believe, yes, you're, later on you've got an opportunity to expand more on
in this
what
session itself, right?
Well, no, you could do that now. No, Shailini, if you...
I need just look it up. All right, thanks. Yeah, sorry, I need to look it up a bit because I need to make sure that I cover all the points. Just a minute. The reason why I just have to make sure, because this is a very interesting connections that we are attempting to make now. We call it the Khadi way. Khadi as a hand-spun, hand-woven fabric is amazing because it works supporting the environment. We said moral fiber fabrics free the environment from pollution and depletion and free people from poverty, and that is exactly what it does, and which is a fascinating thing. But when Mahatma Gandhi started with the Khadi movement, it was a lot more than that. It was about a way of life. It was about making, what Gandhi did was that he wanted everybody to spin and weave themselves and use the fabric what they make rather than buying it. And it is a completely different way of life. It promotes self-sufficiency, it promotes not wasting, it stops the greed, it stops the throwaway culture, it stops exploitation. So it is a completely different way of looking at how we wear. All this time, I think we've come into a situation now that we have just remained as a consumer, but we are not really becoming part of the creating of the fabric or we're becoming part of the creation process. So what we are trying to do now is in a certain way, maybe in a rural area or in an urban area in some parts, we are trying to promote people contributing into making their own clothes. There are certain very interesting aspects that Mahatma Gandhi had said, and I think that is something that is worth looking at. Gandhian economics is revealed on the notes that it is always dealt with the last man. That whatever you produced or whatever that you buy, it has to, well, first of all, not harm the last man, but also not create opportunities for the last man. And I think that is a very, very strong message that it gives. It also says that poverty is described as one of the most severe polluters. So these are the kind of sessions, kind of messages that we need to absorb in our today's life and see what we can do. The only path to democracy and to peace among nations was to decentralize economic and political systems, where necessarily the rewards are moderate. We live in a world where it is always high rewards, high returns, very quick buck kind of an economy. But this one, we are talking about the low rewards, spread out economy. And those are the kind of values that Khadi actually promoted. Those are the morals that the Khadi promoted. And we, in some way, wanted to go backwards to that and revive those issues that are there. Moving on. To answer, we had again talked about these issues this morning. To answer the question, it is said that respecting the nature is costs money. Vandana Shiva, one of the prominent thinkers of sustainability today, said that we are living in a final stages of a very deceitful system that has made everything that is very costly for the planet, costly for producers, but it looks really, really cheap for the consumers. This is something completely inverted kind of an economic system that we are living here. So very high cost production with GMOs and patents and royalties and fossil fuel is made to look like cheap food and also cheap cotton, and very costly production that kills girls in Bangladesh in slave factories is made to look like it is a cheap clothing. And this is all fake cheap, and we need to really move away from there. And there is a message there. It says that we need to heal ourselves. We are part of this deceitful system of commercialization and globalization and the market sources, where we are made to get into the whole greed of buy without thinking about anything else. And so we need to somehow get back. These are all complex issues. It's not something that's going to be resolved today or tomorrow, but I think this is where the thought processes are going, that we need to restore our self-belief and self-worth, and somehow we need to respect working with hands and heart and mind all together, and somehow we should become part of the creating process of whatever we do, and that is what we are really trying to promote. We are setting up a Moral Fibres studio, which is happening sometime in December times, and this is exactly where we are trying to move to. We are trying to have a space where we have a charkadi. Especially khadi is something like what Shailini is doing. It is so simple to make once you get into it. So why not we get involved in making part of it? Why don't we make the yarns ourselves? Why don't we make it and then wear what we make? And let's bring that culture of us using our hands, our heart and our mind together. And that actually, I think, is a true humanity too. We've sort of come to an age where we feel that labor with hands is less valuable, and I think that mentality also needs to change, and we should really respect ourselves and all our faculties and what the human race is all about. It's not just about using your mind or using that. I think we should become more of a whole human being. We got to heal ourselves. So that is the kind of work that we want to do. We want to set up places where people can spin and weave, people can contribute into making the clothes that they do something with all of that. Also have training programs, become facilitator for supporting various other sustainable businesses, designers, create a kind of place where all those kind of dialogues can happen on a regular basis and promoting sustainability in India and abroad. I mean, we talk about the world scene. India is even worse. On one side, this is a very, very interesting paradox, but on one side, India has in DNA the messages of Mahatma Gandhi, who said that there is no beauty in cloth if it creates hunger and poverty. That is a straight message, and that people still hear in all the elderly people, they still have that thing in their messages. We are also one of the highly recycling society. We don't throw away anything. All the clothes, newspapers, everything. Those who have been to India probably know. Everything gets recycled, everything gets used. So all that culture is still there. But on the other side, if you look at the urban culture there, people don't want to be taken the picture and shown on Facebook again in the same clothes. I mean, that is where everything is moving to. And the exploitation that it generates, because somebody has to pay. If you buy something for 35 rupees or something, somebody has to pay. So even Indian community, Indian people have to heal themselves from this thing and maybe connect with their own roots. And that also has an international resonance. So that's something that we are trying to do. So watch this space. Of course, we are very excited with our new venture. Also, I wanted to announce that we want to do Awake 2 in January. So everybody is invited. We did a fantastic event, Awake 2 and this one. So this and a lot more other people are going to be involved because we work with lots of other designers from everywhere else as well. We would like to invite everybody and have a kind of more awareness programs about the Khadi way and the way of life, because that is probably one way of bridging the gap. On one side, we are not going to be able to stop this big producers who sell shirts in £3. We're not going to stop that. But if people value something that they make themselves and wear it, and if that is something that happens, I think there is a possibility of bridging that gap in some way. And Khadi is really a kind of an example where you can get into, and probably that will lead to other things. So that's something that's a kind of a wishful, hopeful thinking. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Shailini. Where are you going to be holding this?
Ahmedabad, Gujarat. India. In Gujarat. In Gujarat, in Ahmedabad. But we will send you the details in time. So you all are welcome.
Do you have any dates yet?
Probably second or third or fourth week of January.
Thank you very much, Shailini. And we'll all look forward to getting together early in 2019 again,
Absolutely.
Hopefully with more knowledge. Rohit, are you going to talk to us about the Alliance for Sustainable and Holistic Agriculture? So a different perspective now, but one also, I think, close to all of our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Hi, my name is Rohit Parak, and I'm here to speak on Alliance for Sustainable and Holistic Agriculture, or shortly called as ASHA, which is a Hindi term representing hope. So fits in well with what we are trying to do. So ASHA was formed 7 years ago with an aim of tackling multiple and related problems in Indian agriculture. So the focus, ASHA has had 4 focus areas, one of them being to promote ecological agriculture. So various forms of ecological agriculture, including organic farming, natural farming, permaculture, whatever the different shapes and forms of those being. Second being on farmer income related issues, and trying to build an awareness on how both of these are actually interrelated. Third, and something which sometimes gets forgotten in this space, is actually on the consumer side. So building an awareness and engaging consumers proactively rather than thinking of them as just buyers of what we're trying to sell. Getting them proactively engaged and involved so that they can have access to safe, nutritious, diverse food, which they should be able to access. And the fourth pillar being on farmers having control over land, seed, forest, water, the resources which historically have belonged to these communities. So Asha's work has brought together researchers, activists, social enterprises, farming groups, consumer groups, media people, all together in a way to build on advocacy measures, tackling in a lot of issues on different themes. And just to give an example of a few of these, there are some networks which are again groups of people working associated with Asha. One of them being on Coalition for GM-Free India. So as Krista was mentioning earlier, again, GM cotton is a big issue. And one of the propagandas that often goes around is that GM cotton has been a success, it has managed to increase production, and so on. However, government data itself shows that what GM cotton was successful in was increasing fertilizer use, insecticide use, whereas the yield actually stagnated. The production did increase, but that was actually because of an increase in acreage rather than actually. So trying to break these propagandas, these myths which keep going around, getting them out there in media, ensuring the government people who are actually taking decisions have awareness of these ground realities versus what is being built as myths, so as to get more GM crops around, using GM cotton as a success indicator. There are other networks targeting on different groups. There is one for seed conservation. There is one called India for Safe Food. We've also had a lot of people with significant celebrity standing get involved in different shapes and forms as well. Also, every couple of years, we have a pan-India gathering of groups and individuals and networks associated and working on different themes related to Asha, whether it being seed, soil, farm, forest, food, in whichever shape and form. The next one will be taking place in November. Kapil Shah, if you can raise your hand. He's also Asha steering committee member, and he's hosting this one in Baroda, in Ahmedabad, in between 2nd and 4th of November. So it's a once every 2-year thing. And what we are now also trying to do is get more and more of younger people involved and engaged, who already are getting involved in agriculture, but also trying to get more people involved in advocacy measures and try and change the direction of public policy. A lot of which, whilst we do not necessarily get engaged in the beginning stages, is what really determines a lot of what are the long-term impacts. So just to give again some examples, which we're now also trying to build more awareness on, is in terms of how it is policy decisions to actually ensure farmers are paid less so that they move from rural to urban areas and leave farming so as to allow more and more of land being used for other industrial purposes. So again, there are reasons why this is happening. Whilst we know what is happening, the whys and how it is happening in terms of the policy and those decisions, those are where we are also trying to focus more on. That's that from me. Thank you.
Rohit, thank you very much. Very interesting aspects of how to build a network and link things through, so thank you very much. Andy, Field to Fashion Tours. We await with much anticipation.
Good morning, everyone. Good. Where are we? Good lunchtime, everyone. I'm Andy Rutherford from Fresh Eyes People to People Travel. And so two things. First of all, to introduce people to Fresh Eyes, People to People Travel, and then introduce some people who have been here, who've been participating. You have your fair trade goods, many of them, and many of them from people here. But fair trade travel, which is 1/10 of global GDP, and also 1/10 of London's GDP, believe it or not, is very unfairly and horribly and destructively and nastily traded in general, and is one of the most destructive industries with respect to the planet at present. And we don't even see it. It's just not even, not even on the radar yet. And so I've started one of the first not-for-profit tour companies, which is a bit of a very rare object, based on the principles that we all share, fundamentally on issues around transparency and accountability, respect for producers, fairly traded approach, and also an inclusive and transparent supply chain. There's nothing illogical about that. This is what we're all here to do. But I have to say, in the world of travel, that is completely unheard of. I mean, it's very few people who are talking about this. So, I'm at a much earlier stage than all of you. You may not feel it, but it's a very early stage. And we are trying to link up people who have an ethical approach to hosting, to travel, to movement, in a way that means that, as you are doing with your work, you're contributing and being part of supporting local communities, solidarity, and ensuring that the benefits of your stay and your movement stay within communities and make them stronger as opposed to more polluted and divided. And we're privileged to be working with a number of social enterprises and groups across different parts of India and also in some other countries around the world. To date, there's been a lot of excitement about this. And my current level of excitement, which is why we're here today, is because we have, believe it or not, a number of people within you who've already experienced this. So we have Phoebe and Isabel at the back. Hello. Hey. We have Victoria, freshly back. We have, in a different way, thinking about the future. We have also Shailini and Kishore, and also Ivan in a bizarre way as well. Because we are hoping, and it's building on the experience earlier this year of Khadi and Isabel, also Henrietta and Sareka, and some other people who asked the simple question: we want to meet producers, go to where organic cotton is produced, meet the communities, understand the challenges and the difficulties, but also the ways forward, to meet with different people in the whole supply chain, understand their ethical spine of what they're doing and their intentions, why they're doing it and their challenges, and how we can work in solidarity with them to develop ethical products. Okay? So that's what the intention, that's the hope. And then what we hope to do is to be able to contribute to that ethical spine by trying to enable you to travel ethically as well. Yeah? And it's as simple as that. So based on the experiences earlier this year, Victoria, who maybe you can talk in a second if you wish, or maybe Phoebe or Isabel, or please, feel free, just to share what the hope is to be able to develop from kapas to kameez, from field to cloth, to clothing, travel. Tours, I always don't like the word. It feels like very voyeuristic. This is a lot more participatory, I can assure you. And to enable, hopefully, around the opportunity which is going to be happening in Ahmedabad in the 3rd, 4th week of next year for the Awake 2, if there are innovators, designers, producers from here who want to go to that, to then say, okay, this is the world around. This is the world of producers, of organic cotton, of weavers, of people who are finishing different parts of the process, even down to tailors, who to meet and to share your aspirations, to try and make sure that that ethical spine is at the heart of what you do. And I know a number of people who said, well, why do you want to do this? So someone would come to you with your piece of cloth your material, your piece of clothing, say, and it says, this is ethical, this is sustainable, this is sourced like this. Tell me. Joe's got the secret on the barcode, and but also I think the people who have done this, it is actually embedded in them. Yeah, so the sincerity and the authenticity, that horrible word, but it's a really important one, it just comes out. You know, and because you have met, you have touched and experienced the people in all parts of your supply chain. And in the world that we're trying to move towards, I think, as shared with the contributions this morning, this is fundamentally important, the humanity within the process. And so, in a small way, Fresh Eyes People Travel hopes to be able to contribute to that by making sure that you do this in as an ethical way as possible. And I don't know if maybe, Victoria, you want to say anything about your last month at all, or whether, yeah, put on the spot.
Hi, my name is Victoria. I just came back from India. As Andy was saying, I just spent time with many people just in different regions in India, Gujarat, in Madhya Pradesh. I would suggest you, if you are interested in actually meeting your suppliers or potential suppliers, to visit actually this country. I've been amazed by the work that I've seen done in not only in just mills or factories, but in their own houses. So basically, they were just offering me chai, tea, and spending a lot of time explaining me the techniques that they were just doing every single day. And the last thing they were thinking about was about the prices or the market or the supply chain, any other the terminology that we usually use here in the Western world. They were just speaking about tradition. They were just speaking about what they have learned from their parents or grandparents. They were just proud of this work that they can share with their children, and because of the work they do, they can send their children to school. They just can improve their livelihoods. So basically, for them, it's not just about just making business. It's about it's a way of living. So I seriously encourage you, if you have the opportunity to spend few months or few days in India and share all this richness and tradition that India has. And the interesting thing is, like, every single village or place where you visit, they have a different traditions. So you can see different ways of working the fabrics, different techniques, different things that I've learned. Because actually, in so many places of India, especially in the north, there's a lot of influences from many ethnicities. Migrants from many places, from Middle East or from other places. So basically, they're just like it's a mix of cultures. They just they have been transformed around the years, and the results are. I'm not wearing anything at the moment because it's very cold, so I wasn't able to wear my Indian clothes. But I have to say that now I think, even if I'm not in the textile industry, I can totally, notice the difference between something that is organic, that is, naturally woven on spin, than something that is polyester. I would never go for polyester anymore, even though it's like I've never been to. But seriously, at this stage, I have to say that the quality of the product, the products that I've touched, is noticeable. And so, if you, as a designers, are trying to create beautiful clothes for people, I think the best way is to go for something like Khadi or organic or cotton or something very genuine. Not only just as a matter of beauty, but also as a matter of environmental consciousness. That we are doing very, very bad to our world at the moment, and we are all responsible for that. So I think we all of us, we can do a little contribution. So I want to thank, of course, many people that I've met along the road, but again, just encourage you, if you can join Andy and the team with the journey in January. For you, it's going to be an amazing experience.
Yeah. Yeah, you just like to wrap up. Yeah, I just want to put the couple or Shailini want to add from a receiving side, because I don't know the importance of people coming, and also with open eyes, with fresh eyes, as we say. But whether you want to add from the point of view in Gujarat, why the importance of having people coming.
Thank you. I've lived in India for many, many years and also lived in England. But the thing is that when Victoria came, I also went with her to Madhya Pradesh and some of the places that I have not even seen. And of course, I can talk a lot about Gujarat, first of all. That what I find, being here and being there, is that the whole culture of doing things, which we've been talking about, that Britain at one stage was the hub of leather, hub of woolwork, hub of all of that, and we've lost it. And so in so many parts of Europe, at least in India, there are pockets where the crafts are alive. People really live out of that. But I'm also saying that all of that is dying too if we don't support. So our work of relating ourselves, and I many times say that of course support the artisans of India, but at the same time learn from them how we can revive our own industries, own crafts, own things in other countries too. At least there is an example, there is a model which tells you good, bad and everything of it. So I think one of the things that's very important for people, anybody in the creative field, would be to at least come and see something firsthand, meet people, see the context, and maybe understanding things in their context will make us understand to do the work in other contexts too. And I think that is what is very, very important. And there are lots of things to see, lots of amazing things, lots of wonderful people to see, lots of crafts, lots of right, lots of wrongs, lots of things that they are doing it wrongly, and lots of frauds as well. All of that is there. But I think that is actually teaches us, everything sort of teaches us how we can connect with crafts, can connect with doing things with our hands, and how we can relate ourselves to it, and then maybe take it forward as a designer, as a textile person, as a consumer. And I think that just opens up so I think the fresh eye is really a fresh eye in a way, I would say. Thank you.
So thank you. This is in a way a long answer to Joe's last question this morning. Yeah, how do we communicate and how do we address this? And if we're trying to share the tactile, respectful humanity which is embedded in all we wear, this is a fundamental way of contributing to that. So it just hopefully you can participate in that in some shape or form in the future. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. Thank you, and your friends for a very interesting presentation there, and showing us really that ethical issues around the supply chain impact in many different sectors, not just fabrics, which we're focusing on today, and that cross sectors we can learn, and as Shailini said, we can also learn from different contexts, what we are trying to do here, what they're trying to do in India, in Africa, elsewhere, as we heard from Krista. So that's all crucial learning opportunities that we're hearing about. Finally, to wrap up this session before we throw it open for any questions, I'd like to ask Kishore to come up and talk about Khadi.
And when I started Khadi about 4 years ago, it was just about fabrics. And very soon it just went beyond that into networking, into building up a team, into having events like this. It's all happened just spontaneously. So it's all happened very spontaneously. And I think like what you're seeing now, today, is people volunteering. The exhibition was designed by Divya, I don't know if she's here. Janine has taken the whole organization in her hands. We had Tulika, who just come in and pretty much in charge of the day for what's happening now. And that's how Khadi, it's gone from Khadi to Khadi Initiative, I would say. And we are interacting with India, we are interacting with the field to fashion tools that you're talking about. The challenge now, what I think, is how do we convert this informal networking into something more formal? Khadi Initiative was started by 4 businesses and a charity. It has grown from there. If we look at the brochure for today's event, there are about 30 plus businesses who are contributed in some way or the other. So the challenge now, I feel, is how do we now formalize it, have shared responsibilities in a formal way, and how do we go forward into building it into a movement? So I think in that same sense, I would like to ask, maybe start with Andy, what are your feelings? Okay. I think one of the earliest people to join in, we met about 4 years ago at a small event like this. And when they went to India, I went to the Khadi Center. So maybe Phoebe and Isabel, what do you feel? How do we take it forward, formalize it? Any idea? Yeah.
That's a lot of responsibility. To introduce ourselves, I guess we do the organic cotton underwear, amphibian Isabel, and we met Kishore, like he said, at an event that was at Impact Hub that was on mindful manufacturing and looking at fibres and fabrics and textiles and how we do the textile industry better. And from that, we've met so many people and been able to go to India a couple of times and meet our whole supply chain and different cooperatives, and that's all come out from just an openness, I guess. And in terms of how we move things forward, it's like just doing business differently, where we do share and we do talk about share our supply chains and things like that. And there's always a risk when you're like really open, but actually just like realizing that it's more of a holistic thing, that we can actually help each other and share what we've learned and the problems and the limitations and everything. But it's just, I don't know, I don't think there's a one answer of how we do this or formalize it, I don't know, but it's like actually just creating that network of communication where we can help each other and have that support. So how we do that, I guess there's things like the ethical hour and things like that where people just keep talking and creating more events and yeah, I guess also it's putting it to everyone who's here, like why people have been interested in coming today, and it's like what's driven you to do that and what do you want to get out of to like being in a place like this where there are ethical businesses and people trying to do it differently. Is like what everyone here like wants to achieve moving forward, I guess. So it's something maybe to put to the floor a bit as well. If anyone else has ideas or what they think is like really important on how we kind of build the momentum, because I think there is also an element of speaking to the converted. I think that it can be a thing where we are in a community and a network, but actually it's like there's lots and lots of people out there who aren't engaged with textiles and fibres, and because it's maybe a daunting or there's so many elements to it. Supply chains are really complex. It's not like food, it doesn't just come out the ground and you have an item of clothing. There's so many different processes and things to understand, and it is complex, and it's like, again, that's communication. I think Izzy and I felt when we launched is that's what we wanted to share, and that's why we've spent a lot of time going out to India and meeting with the ginners, the spinners, the knitters, the dye houses, and that's always been in every project we're doing. That's been the most important thing, is learning ourselves and then communicating that in a not too overwhelming way. Yeah, I think it would be really interesting to hear what other people have ideas they have really as well. Yes.
I'll ask somebody else, maybe quite decision of that. Len. we've been in touch with about, again, 3-4 years. We've been in touch with 3-4 years, and we've been coordinating. What do you feel? How can we take this? It's been a lot of promotion, a lot of networking, a lot of ideas. How do we start? I don't know how to say. How do we start making it into more coordinated, more planned way of going forward? Any thoughts on that? Jessica, would you like to come down? Because I think because you feel inspired by what you're doing. And see, again,
Put on the spot, Jessica.
Everyone's running away with you.
No, I mean, I've brushed up against things like this before where it starts from a conversation and then it grows and grows and grows and grows. And I think what you said is really key, and we can't just speak like to like. But I mean, it's amazing because natural fibres covers the whole, it's global, so it's huge. But I think, that's a really good point, getting listed on directories. Because ultimately, I mean, being events-based so far, it started conversations, which then people hear, then take and run with them. So maybe, just a thought, it doesn't have to become a fixed thing, but just a conversation point. But it feels like, the Khadi Way, that's taking off and running, and maybe the Khadi Initiative will be linked, linked together. But still, in some ways, early days of how everything's starting to form, that's incredible, just starting up. But I think I'm learning in my own self, is because there's so much that I brush against and want to see change and see action, but it just takes time and you can't do it all. I know you guys have felt this as well. You have to almost have the faith that the right connections will come with time, and they do, is what I'm finding, which is really incredible, and you get very excited about it, but you have to kind of just almost learn the rhythm of all the other voices that are going on, and the consumer and everything. But yeah, and just celebrate what it is now. That's good.
Interesting. Kishore really shows the passion, and I think he's brought others in. And what I see around the room is champions in all of this thing. And I think that's the important thing that we can really take forward together. And that passion really there comes, I think, from Kishore. My connection is very much as an outsider. Kishore and I worked together on forest governance in India some 15, 20 years ago. But it's that passion that he had when he was working in Shimla then that he's brought to the Khadi. And I think then getting other people also excited. And as I say, as an outsider, I see a lot of really interesting things happening in small ways. And they're important people who are trying to really make a change. And again, perhaps going back to what Rohit was saying, this alliance in building these contacts through events like this, through networking, what Sean was talking about early on, are all opportunities for us to share the message, spread the message in different ways and in different environments. But I've broken into Kishore's discussion. Please, Kishore, carry on.
So I'll try to get to some people who are just joining in now. These are people who have been for a while. maybe someone who's come from very far, and I just happened to have a telephone coffee chat with. Do you have any ideas, Karen? How we could take this forward in a bigger way? How to take this whole movement forward in a bigger way? Yeah. So I think I'll end with somebody whom I started the idea of Khadi with in his kitchen. We were working together in tourism. And I was thinking, I wasn't feeling that was the right way for me to go. This idea of Khadi came up out of the blue. I discussed it with Andy, and he said, let's go.
Well, I'm just going to build on what Phoebe said, who's run away. So I think, oh no, sorry. Network. I think we should get away from the idea that the network or networking or movement is this sort of institutional, office-based, decision-making, documented, minuted thing. Yeah, so that's the first point. But as you said so beautifully, network of communication, okay? Now, which is very, very modern, of course, but actually that's our reality. And it's how we approach that, which I think is what you built on, is that just it's building a solidarity, an ethical solidarity between people who have shared visions and aspirations. But as we've all shared, it's really difficult. It's not waving a magic wand and it's all going to happen. It's not just a virtual coffee. It's a bit of a virtual. What happens next, or how do we do this amongst people you feel at home with? I think. So I think the more we can have that as an approach, actually it happens, you know. And if people see it as a non-threatening space, if you want, how it's constructed, whether it's just people knowing they exist and speaking to each other, and I think it is important every now and then to see each other, to feel each other. We'll all have the memories from today. About 3 months' time, I really should speak to Paula about that. So this coming together every now and then periodically, I think is an integral part of it. It's very important. And that maybe is the formal networking bit. I think really embrace the idea of a network of communication and see where it takes us. And it's brilliant. So.
Okay, so just one last one. We're talking about the Khadi Initiative and networking. So I'd go to the person who I've actually learned a lot about the fabrics from by working with him, John. What we have done is really looked at the fabrics and the whole supply chain.
Yeah.
How do we easily connect them? How do we take that forward?
This is really difficult for me because I think that.
How are you going to become a big business?
Yeah. It's a big kind of problem specifically for me to be like so kind of open, because I suppose like when you really know kind of what market you're in, and you realise kind of how it works, it's really hard for me to be like open about, I have to be kind of really considerate to not be so specific about my supply chain, because otherwise it would kind of just completely, you know, it would ruin my business. So there's an element that I kind of, I'm in kind of not so much in two minds about, but I think it's about kind of getting the balance right, about being kind of, I suppose when I started, I wanted to be, my role, I wanted to be someone who, I guess, like, who shows, like, the other designers that it is possible to make something that is sustainable, keep it, like, it being sustainable and it still being fashion, because there's a large kind of stigma around ethical fashion still, is that it's, you know, it's just kind of big, huge, not fitting clothes that, like, you know, have no kind of relevance within fashion at all. And that's something that I really wanted to kind of to challenge, was that it can be ethical and it still can be fashion. And to kind of, I guess, my role that I kind of perceive as being somebody who can influence younger designers, you know, to use natural fibres, and for them to, you know, be creative with it and, you know, innovate with it. But I don't think it's my role to be, I'm not going to reveal all my sources to, you know, the next designer, because it would, you know, it just wouldn't work for me. So yeah, it's hard.
So back to you.
Kishore, thank you very much. And those of you that haven't spoken yet, no doubt you'll have an opportunity for further questions, and maybe being dragged into making a short speech by other presenters, as obviously Kishore put a few of you on the spot. I think we'll probably, if anybody has any specific questions, but otherwise we'll wrap up this session now. I'm starting to feel hungry, and I know there's some good food being prepared around the corner. So there's an opportunity to take a bit of lunch, look around the stalls, and I think we're coming back here again in about 45 minutes to again have a question and answer session with some of the people that have already spoken and others as well, to further our know-how and our awareness. One of the things that I've certainly felt today already is, you know, it's important this stage. We've got to build awareness, onto then know-how, onto then doing things. You know, many of us are at those different stages. Somebody like myself is really building up awareness and knowledge of a lot of these issues. Many of you, of course, are actually doing it, and we've just heard people who've been out right through the supply chain, looking at the producers in whichever country that's been. And we're going to hear more from Jo later on about her new initiatives in Malawi, which I'm looking forward to hearing about. Thank you all for your participation, and particularly thank you to all the presenters and the various varied, interesting perspectives they put on the subject we're talking about today. Thank you all very much.